Good morning, I am Pete, also known as Risk for Rewards over on Twitter. Going to try and keep this as short as possible because I realise it's going out at 11:03, so it'll probably go out around 11:30 hopefully, and I know racing starts in 3 hours. Unfortunately, I don't have the same time in the winter. To put it quite simply, for 7 months across the winter, my life stops for horse racing. I live, sleep, dream it, the whole works. My family accept that, my friends accept that, and it's just one of those things. May be sad to many, and I do sit there and I'm a slave to it in all sorts of ways. So in the summer, I have to reset. So 5 months off. I still enjoy the racing, watch the racing, but it's more of a hobby that I try and keep as much in touch with as possible. Doesn't mean I spend any less time doing research and stuff. I just don't have the time to provide the content all the time. So let's keep this short. Hope everyone's well. Hope you're all looking forward to Goodwood and Galway. Again, I'll try and get as much video or written content as I can. I don't like to just put selections up because it doesn't give you half the story. A lot of the time I can say something and a person will back something else based on what it is that I've said. So I just want to give something out there. I don't want to just say blah, blah, blah. Anyway, on to today. Brilliant racing. And as I've said, brilliant racing next week, Galway and Goodwood. Goodwood Tuesday kicks off with, I believe, Rosalian. I think the mile sprint, the mile race, and also Kyprios both race on Tuesday. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the case. Anyway, on to Ascot. Anyone starting the video? Ascot starts here. I'm going to run through a good whack of the card, but as quick as possible as I can. So 1:15, the Crocker 6 furlong race. Obviously, Godolphin and Charlie Appleby are just starting to tick into gear. They had a big winner with, I can't remember who it was, something Court, something like that. Very impressive 2 days ago. But that doesn't mean that all of them are then suddenly going to win. And obviously this one's been opened up a lot shorter due to the fact it was having quite a slow season, but they got the ball is rolling now. It's a sire Blue Point, 6 furlongs, Charlie Appleby colours. Obviously there's going to be plenty of interest. Currently, as I look at it, is priced around 5 to 6 to 8 to 13. Not a race I want to get involved in, but it is worth watching. So 1:15, have a good watch of that race. On to the 150, Princess Margaret Stakes. So I do watch all the markets when they open. This was 9 to 4 anti-post, reopened at 2 to 1. And slightly a little bit bigger. 2 to 1 was a great price for Simmering. Stat around 6 to 4, and I think that's still probably a fair price based on form. As we saw a few weeks ago, though, you can have the form in the race. That doesn't mean that another horse is not going to improve past you. And this is why I want to do these videos, because when you put a horse up, especially favourites, people are like, oh, it's a favourite, just back it. He thinks it's going to win. Not always the case. So what I mean by this is I put up Heaven's Gate a few weeks ago, and Heaven's Gate, that was to win at Newmarket. I put it up, the horse up about 4 to 1, I think it was, 7 to 2. Got backed all the way into a short price, went off 15 to 8. Ran an absolute stormer of a race, but finished third, beaten by other horses, especially fillies. They improve at different rates. So Heaven's Gate, the reason I use Heaven's Gate is because Heaven's Gate finished behind Simmering, running a screamer, ran another brilliant race next time out, but unfortunately found a couple of other fillies improving past. So what I'm trying to say is these races you do not want to be diving in full throttle, having your wagers on. Because I can run through, Tales of the Heart was expected to go very well last time out in Newmarket as well, having finished a really strong run behind Celandine, and didn't run no race, but was still only finished 6th, but that's beaten 3.5 lengths. I'd expect Tales of the Heart to be much more suited to Ascot and may bounce back. So if you want one at a bigger price, 12 to 1 is interesting. Definitive, Clive Cox, we know he loves Ascot. Is very impressive winner on debut, but I can go through this all the way through. Definitive, Handcuff, Mandura. If you're ranking the debutants, for me, I would be going with Handcuffed. However, looking in behind, the form of that has not really worked out. Angelica Bay was well beaten. Stellenbosch has been well beaten. So what the horse beat on that day was up to question, but did it very impressive. I'm not going to go through all of these. The bottom line is Simmering comes into this with the best form and not remarkably, quite stand out the best form. We all saw that in effect she would have won any normal Albany Stakes, and the number she achieved there she likely would have won. If I just go to past winners, she would have been there or thereabouts. I'm not saying she would have won because it looks like the Albany's thrown up quite a few outstanding horses and also quite a lot for Aidan O'Brien. Obviously she hit the front, delivered late, fell out the stalls, and she just got pipped by Fairy Godmother. We all saw how good Fairy Godmother was. She hit plenty in running. And again, don't sleep on Fairy Godmother. A lot of people getting so hung up on Bedtime Story, and obviously I backed Bedtime Story at 40 to 1 on the double up, but at the same time 7 to 2, you can get that about 4 to 1 if you did want that for the 1,000 guineas next year. But I would not forget about Fairy Godmother. I don't think there's a lot between those two horses, and they don't know which one's better. And it would not surprise me. The form is working out very strong with this race. So going back to Simmering again, obviously Heaven's Gate ran a screamer in that race I just mentioned, finishing third at Newmarket. Mountain Breeze, who finished fourth there, has finished second since. California Dreamer has then gone on to finish second in behind Truly Enchanting in a Group 2, and then in the Group 3 finished third behind Babouche last weekend and Camilla Pizarro. So that is what I call solid form. So if Simmering can either run to that level or take another step forward, she'll take some beating today. And she's 6-4. She's obviously been purchased by Al Shakab and also now gets the assistance of Ryan Moore. I'd expect her to be delivered late, but the biggest bonus for me is the fact she's got Ascot form. Love that, the fact that she's already raced at the track. On to the next race. So 225, the Valiant Stakes. This race is tricky, to say the least. William Haggis has got a good record on it, but it's hard to make a case for his horse Doom. Only finished 4 lengths behind Running Lion, but looks fairly exposed compared to some of the others in this race. Thornbrook, Ryan Moore takes the ride, never write off one of his horses, his mounts, but at the same time, again, I'm finding it hard to make a case for that horse. Sirona was subject to a fair bit of early money and is probably the best of the older brigade, but for me, I want to look at the younger horses, the 3-year-olds. They don't really tick the stats because the stats say that you want to have more runs, which would suit Soprano, but maybe not so much Devoted Queen and Friendly Soul. Devoted Queen, the concern for me is why she's been off since May. Appleby, but at the same time, Appleby's had a bit of a tricky start, tricky part of the season, so maybe he's just kept her back. And as I said, they are starting to really tick into gear. Well, I didn't actually know his runs of form. He's got 8 wins from his last 14 runners, and they're run to 75% run to form strike rate. So he is really bombing. So don't be surprised if you see plenty of blue horses in the winners' enclosure right now. So again, Spiritual won since, the horse that Devoted Queen beat, but it's a short price at the front end of the market. Soprano, obviously Royal Ascot winner when getting the weight. Billy Loughnane retains, goes back on board. Was beaten by Spiritual last time out, who obviously, if you want to do your straight up across, Soprano was beaten by Spiritual was beaten by Devoted Queen. So if you just went absolutely knew nothing about racing and just wanted to go simple block to block, you're looking at Devoted Queen is obviously the more likely winner due to the fact of that horse beat horse B. So the horse that interests me was Friendly Soul. Unfortunately, the price is gone, and I'm not sure whether I want to back it anymore. I've not backed it currently. It was 5-1, and I thought that was fair because I was finding it hard to see her out of the frame. She's now around 3-1 to 10-3. The concern for me is I have not warmed at all to Kieran Schumacher. I know a lot of people. I just almost feel like he's fallen into this job. I look at the likes of William Buick, Oisin Murphy, James Doyle, all of them had to proper graft to get to the positions that they're in. And like last season, I couldn't tell you who Kieran Schumacher was even riding for. I've got nothing against the person as a jockey, but I just don't see where. And I know he's done different rides. The ride he gave Emily Upjohn over in Ireland in the Pretty Polly Stakes when he got beaten by Blue Stocking. A lot of jockeys would have come out of that, and I've heard Ruby Walsh say it so many times. The first things where someone asks you, like, would you change anything from the ride you've given? Like, Ruby always used to respond. He always used to say, well, yeah, of course. He said, as soon as you cross the line, if you've gotten beaten by a short distance or there's a circumstance, you always think, what could I have done better? How could I improve? What could I? And he was asked the same question. And he was like, no, I gave that. And it was almost like so he didn't come across as defensive or even arrogant. It's like he's got a lot of self-confidence. He was like, no, I'm happy with everything I did. And that's in my opinion, that's a poor attitude. If I do anything where I feel like I've narrowed it down to 2 horses and I get something wrong, I feel like, what could I have done better? Why did I pick that horse? And he just didn't seem to be, he didn't want to accept any criticism. And to me, if you're getting beaten in those sort of rides, you need to think, okay, what could I have done? Could I have kicked one stride left? Anyway, digress. So bottom line is, I'm just not a massive fan. But the horse, Kalpana, has literally hacked up last week, who Friendly Soul beat well. Friendly Soul on figures and ratings is the best horse in this race. Doesn't have to give weight to the other 3-year-olds. Gets weight from the rest of them. And her 109 RPR is up there with the 4-year-olds. And the 4-year-olds she's getting £8 from. So if you ask me for a bet in this race, it's Friendly Soul. But I have not backed her currently. I will wait to see how the prices work out close to the time. May just have a small win-only bet, but that's not the way I wanted to play the race. On to the 3 o'clock. So this race has gone up and down and all over the shop because of the fact that it's very strange. We've seen a lot of drifters, to put it quite simply. The stats point massively towards high draws. which knocks out a lot of the front end of the market, yet the front end of the market remain there. So like Orazio, Carry the One, they're all still low draw. I'm not going to beat around the bush with this. I thought A Alto was very, very impressive last time out. It just worries me the fact that Ross Orion is happy to switch from A Alto back to Billy Joe. Billy Joe was also very impressive in his run behind English Oak last time out. And I look, and the handicap has been very lenient with most of these. Only put up £2 for that. Ran an absolute screamer to finish second. Well beaten behind English Oak, but it was still a screamer. Billy Joe is my first selection of the race. Ascot form, I'll have to get it up, but I believe it's 2 really strong runs out of the 3 at the track. No, 2 strong runs out of 2. Career best RPR is 102, and this horse has ran a 102 and a 101 at this track. First unexposed at 6, not unexposed at 6 furlongs, unexposed at 7 furlongs, sorry. This will be Billy Joe's only second start at 7 furlongs. And obviously coming off the back of 2 career bests, hard to knock, and the fact that Ross Orion's jumped ship off A Alto to go across to this horse. Interesting run at 8 or 9 to 1, I think, currently. Makes top of my shortlist. I was going to go through and pick another one, something like a new image of the high draws, but I just can't leave Carry the One. Not because I think that Carry the One will necessarily definitely get more luck in running. We've all seen now 2 runs in a row, not got any sort of run. Comes here. It's the price. Opened up at 4 to 1, I wasn't going to touch it. Opened up at 5 to 1, I thought, drifted to 5 to 1, I thought, okay, you'll have a saver, so if gets a clear run. The key thing is the handicapper's not touching the horse. Looked luckless time before, looked luckless again last time out. I know it was under Ryan Moore, so you're saying if you can't get luck under Ryan Moore, you're not getting luck under anyone. The thing is, the horse is now 15 to 2. That is just too big a price based on the fact that he was sent off 5 to 1 last time out, screaming run behind English Oak. And obviously that run behind English Oak ties him in very well with Billy Joe. Billy Joe ran off 9-2, so they both ran off 93 and 101 that day. And both of them, Billy Joe's gone up £2, Carry the One hasn't gone up at all, which is remarkable. So both of those two come in here, red hot form, love Ascot, love this, proven over the trip. There's very little not to like. The only thing with Carry the One is the draw. But the thing is, if they come up the centre of the track, everyone's going to be gravitating towards those high numbers and that high side. I just think the doors could open and Carry the One. Yeah, okay, you may sacrifice the perfect plumb path to go through, but you should finally get a run. And if you're good enough, you're good enough. Again, it's a price thing. Opened at 4 to 1. You're now looking at, it would not surprise me if it was about 8 to 1, 9 to 1 at this rate. So those will be the two. As I look at the prices currently, best you're getting is 15 to 2 and 8 to 1. They'll be my 2 selections for 3 o'clock. 3:40, and this is a proper race. Honestly, I do not. You just get so many. I put a thing up about Cheltenham yesterday, and people were complaining, saying anti-post is dead. Like honestly, people, it's madness. What do people want? If this had 3 or 4 runners, but it included City of Troy, people would be complaining that it's too small a field. Now it's got about 10 runners, 9 runners, multiple Group 1 winners, horses that have won Group 1s, multiple Group 1s themselves, and people are still complaining. Oh, there's only one 3-year-old. It is madness. What do you want? This is the sport. This is a brilliant race. So I'm going to, obviously this is the race of the day, so I'm going to give it a bit of time. Goliath would not be for me. I'm not going to stand here and go any further. Dubai Orner, exactly the same. Be a shock to me if they won. Middle Earth, again, be a shock to me. Okay, I get it. I backed the horse to win the Hardwick. Was in the wrong place when the taps were turned on for the speed. But take nothing away. You don't. Well, for me, it'd be very surprising if you can't win a Hardwick or go very close, like finish third in a race like that behind Isle of Jura, to then come here and win in Group 1. It would be a remarkable performance. They're talking about Australia, all the big races in Australia. I think that is why Oisin Murphy has stuck to this horse, because if this horse goes down route, the money gets big, and he goes down there, and they'll be riding in races that are worth this sort of money, Group 1 money, but they'll be a lot easier to win. So it'd be no surprise to see this horse run a big race, but it would be a surprise to me if he was to win. Sunway's more interesting for me, getting the weight allowance as a 3-year-old. Very strong run in behind Los Angeles last time out. James Doyle takes the ride. It would be classic. Obviously, James Doyle taking over and getting the job done. And I'd say that Oisin wouldn't have wanted to give this ride up. It's only because of connections. But at the same time, I do think there's better horses in here than some way. But if you want one at a big price, that'll be it for me. 10, 12 to 1, something like that. Blue Stocking, obviously I put her up last time out. beat Emily Upjohn, brilliant run. I just think my worry for her is that I thought 10 furlongs and cutting the ground has been the making of her. I'm not sure she wants this 12 furlong trip. She was beaten by Al Kareem and Poptronic when extending out further, and I'm also not sure, while a lot of these improve for faster ground, I'm not sure she's the same. I don't think she wants that. And I don't really understand why they keep messing around, like putting cheek pieces on, taking them off. Like cheek pieces are off again last time when she ran a screen behind Emily Upjohn. Why are they back on now? So I don't get that. If she wins one of those, I'll accept it, but she's just not for me at all. So that leaves 3. Luxembourg, Rebels Romance and August Rodin. I'll start with Rebels Romance. Rebels Romance, I think, for me, it's a 2-horse race between the front 2. And Rebels Romance is one of those, if you want an each-way horse to back, that's the one. I do think that has outstanding form, multiple Group 1 winner. My concern is a lot of this has been done out and about over abroad. Some of the races would have been very strong, and the reason why I think the strongest piece of form for him is the Dubai Shima Classic. But to put that into context, he was sent off 25-1 that day, and August Rodin was sent off what price? 11-8. So because of that, August Rodin is trading around 7-4, 6-4, something like that at the moment. So he's actually bigger than what he was sent off that day. Whereas obviously you look at Rebels Romance is almost 6 times less the price. So divided by 6 times shorter than what he was that day. But at the same time, he bolted up that day, so you can see why. Went on to Hong Kong, won again. Is just basically a globetrotting winner. And could I see him winning? 100%. The question mark is, I think last seen in England was a listed race. That's not to say it will make any difference. I mean, this Ascot Stakes could be in America, and maybe him and August Rodin would be a similar sort of price. He is massively respected, and I think he's an uncomplicated ride. I think he'll get a fairly dreamy trip because he's stalled next to August Rodin. They're both in 2 and 3, and I just think however they try to set the race up for August Rodin, Rebels Romance isn't going to be far away. So if you're asking me who I think, if it's not the favourite, who's going to win, I'd say Rebels Romance. So and that's the horse that I massively respect. However, when you get to this level, a lot of it is going to come down to race state and how you believe the race is going to pan out. And again, this is why I've done a video. Luxembourg and Hans Andersen are in there as pacemakers. You're using a pacemaker, or Coolmore are using a pacemaker who's just come off a career best 12 furlong Coronation Cup win, Group 1. So you've got a Group 1 horse who you effectively are going to sacrifice as a pacemaker. So the way I see this is Luxembourg's going to come out of 1, Hans Andersen's going to come out of 5. In the 2 in the middle are going to be August Rodin and Rebels Romance. So what I could see happening is those two are going to both go out, bang, bang, out and make the pace. I could see Rebels Romance and August Rodin both sat in behind. Rebels Romance could be on the outside or on the inside. I'd likely see Rebels Romance in 3 and August Rodin's in 2. So what's likely going to happen is that Rebels Romance is going to sit on the outside of August Rodin, which then is going to make it look like he's boxed in. Could he be boxed in? Could he get no run? Could Buick get this perfectly? He absolutely could. However, the other side of things is the two that are dictating can choose where to take the rest of the field in effect. They can stick to the rail, allowing the rest of the field to go round them as they slow down. But as we know, Luxembourg is not going to be a horse that's just going to give up from the front. If these two don't keep tags on Luxembourg, then he could win the race. But he can dictate it, whether he wants to have it slow, fast, how they want to play the game. Some of these are going to be done for turn of foot. Some are going to be for stamina. The likes of August Rodin, he's got both. Rebels Romance will like a fast pace, and obviously he can go for it. The way I see this going is the fact that Luxembourg and Hans Andersen are going to be going off in Noah's Ark file. Those two going off, and off they go. They've got the choice then of where they can peel off the rail and go out into the middle of the track, leaving a perfect seam for August Rodin to come up the inside if pegged in by Buick. Or the other side of things is, if they want to, they can go across. They can stay on the middle and make everyone go round, but again they can peel away, just like the Derby. It's not right to do, but I'm surprised that Coolmore have stopped doing it for so long and they've brought it back. You saw the way it happened in the Derby. You saw, I think it was Hans Andersen and what was the horse that City of Troy beat, who's then won since? We'll tell you now. Los Angeles. They peeled open, and obviously City of Troy got the perfect path. So what I'm trying to say is, Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien are going to have the perfect horse, the perfect two horses in front to try and set this race up. So they will have everything in their favour. He will have, his excuses will be down to how well a horse like Rebels Romance can pin him in. I think none of the others are going to be interested in trying to pin him in. They'll all be running their own race. The things that are big for me, for August Rodin, he wants fast ground. 10 or 12 furlongs is an issue. Fast ground, good to firm. People were saying yesterday, the ground, because it's been watered, is riding slow. That may well be the case, and maybe he hasn't got fast ground, but I find that hard to believe. The rain has not been around at all. It is warm outside now, like very warm. It was good ground yesterday. It's good to firm on the ratings. I think he'll have very little excuses. So after all that, in the massive big puddle, where do I see it going? For me, I think August Rodin is the best horse of the race, highest rated in the race. And yeah, you could question some of his form, but you could do that for Rebels Romance as well. Two options. Option one is, in fact, no, I'm not going to say I don't know what price he is, because I will scroll to Odds Checker. All of us using our incognito browsers. He is around 6-4 and 13-8 currently. Rebels Romance is 4-1. If you're asking me for one horse in the race, it would be August Rodin. If you're asking me for a horse, if you want to play a bit more cautious, so obviously the 6-4, 13-8, I'd put Rebels Romance as a saver. And what I mean by that is if you're having a £10 stake, I'd have £8 on August Rodin and then £2 on Rebels Romance. So what that does is then is August Rodin wins, I double my money. If Rebels Romance wins, I get my money back full stake. No questions asked, because he's currently 4-1. It's just a safer way of playing. I'm not here to tell people how you should do things, but it is an option and it just gives you that safety net. I do think it's a 2-horse race. And at the end of the day, people say, you put 2 horses up and they both lost. Well, if you're staking 1 point and 1 point is £10, then you still would have lost that regardless of which, if you'd picked one off the other, if neither of those two can win. But I do believe that it's between the front two. However, as I've said, if they give Luxembourg too much rope, then don't be surprised if he doesn't come back to him. But I do think they are the 2 best horses in the race. On to the 4:15, and the 4:15 is very interesting, and again why I wanted to do a video, because this started out with the betting was a bit all over the place. They basically priced 3 horses up at 2-1, but I thought Chancellor was stand out. The debut last time was incredible, Sectional was incredible, but did plenty wrong. Fell out the stall, struggled to get going. Once got going, just properly motored, as in like Rab Havlin, can you keep hold of him? I think Ascot's going to suit. And I think there's very, very little to like. Currently, 25-1 for 2,000 guineas next year, 33-1 with William Hill. I would not put anyone off that. I know I've mentioned a few horses over the time, and some bubbles burst, some don't. But as I've just mentioned then, like if you're having, say, your 1 point stake is going on Chancellor and you want to have £9 on him to win, and that returns you, say, 20 quid because he's, say, 5-4. If you have £1 on at 33-1, If he loses, you still only lose your 1 point stake. If he wins, you've doubled your money for the sake of that £1, and it just means you're then on a free £33 if he was to win. Again, just using examples, but I just think that this horse, he's one of those where it could be special. If you want to back the winner of this based on trends, then Al Qudra is the horse to look for. A horse that's got experience, has victories to his name, and is trained by Charlie Appleby. They've got a good record in this race. But last year, Rosalien blew the field apart, and obviously Rosalien was, in effect, now we probably think should have won the 2,000 guineas. So don't be surprised. And again, I go to Rab Havlin. He is not my favourite jockey whatsoever, but I'm getting to the point now where over Havlin and Schumacher, I wouldn't really be bothered. I'd be just as happy to have Havlin on board. I mean, would I swap? Would it make me more confident, and I'd want a bigger bet if it was William Buick or Oisin Murphy on board? Of course, because if they came to a drive, down to a drive, and that's what's in it to win the race, then I'd expect one of those two to win. But I am hoping that this horse could be one of those really good ones. And just going back to obviously 2,000 guineas, where I say I'm putting, like, you get a £5 free bet here, you get a £5 free. They're your friend. They're what you want to get on side for 2,000 guineas this early out. A lot of the guineas might be 8-1 or 10-1 the field. All you're doing is just trying to chip away. Like if you've had a £10 on 3 or 4 different horses, and it returns you, say, £100 for any of those horses to win. Say you have £3 on Chancellor at 33-1, that returns £100. You then decide, right, okay, there's a 25-1 shot I like, and you have £4 on him, and then the same, another £3 on 33-1 shot. Say all 3 of those make to 2,000 guineas next year. You've staked £10, and if any of those were to win, you win £100. That's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to blow the lights out and have, say, 100 quid on Chancellor at 33s, and then he bombs out here, that ticket's gone, and it's you because you're basing it on nothing. You've only got one set of form. But the sectionals were good, the times were good, the race was good, visually it was good. He is meeting some decent horses in here. This is no cakewalk whatsoever. So if you're tuning in to watch this thinking this is the nap of the day, that's not the case. Do I hope that he wins? Yes, but a lot of it, what you're basing on, is only on that one run that we've seen. And that John Gosden has said he has got a better crop of 2-year-olds than he has in the past. So that is Ascot covered. I'm going to just swing across to York for one race, and that's the race of the day. As you've seen, I'm covering the ITV races. So race of the day at York, 3:15. King's Gambit was 4-1 originally, and now looking around the 9-4. I think that price is too short. Obviously, I've left my video late, but I did this on purpose because I wanted to see how the markets reacted. Could he win? Of course he could. Could be a next superstar? Of course he could. But based on what he did at Ascot, does not make him out to be that price that he currently is. Like his run was brilliant at Ascot. I'm just going to flick across and get the actual form figures up for his run at Ascot. But at the same time, he was still beaten. Was he unlucky? I don't think so. But what I do think he was is he was given a poor ride. It wasn't the fact that he was unlucky. It was the fact that he was given a ride with way too much to do. His London Gold Cup form was outstanding. It was an absolute bolt-up job, brilliant, and I think he should have won at Ascot. But at the same time, that was I believe it was a Group 3? Yeah, that was a Group 3, 0 penalties. He is getting the weight here, so he could just be better. But the issue is here, for all four of these horses, and connections of King's Gambit have overly stated it already, is that there's no pace in the race because none of them are front runners. They're all hold-up horses. So no one has any idea what any horse is going to do in it. King's Gambit, to me, looked like he wanted a strongly run 10 with with a bit of cover to begin with, but somewhere where he can break free and power on home with his combination of speed and stamina. No idea what's going to happen here because there's no obvious pacemaker. They might expect Royal Rhyme to make it because he's the outside of the field, but again, he's a horse that's been held up, so there's no guarantee. One of them will take the ball by the reins and they'll go for it, but that would be a concern for me. So King's Gambit, he could be good, but I just think he's got to prove it. And obviously, I'm not tipping at the 4-1. I'm tipping at 9-4. So he's not of interest for me anymore. Alphalia, 2-3 at York, and that is massive. York is a horrible track. You see many good horses get beaten at York, and won this race last year. Comes here obviously having to give the weight, the £9 to King's Gambit. Ran a really strong race behind August Rodin, falling out the stores as usual. Problem with his Alphalia is this to me will be an unlikely front runner because nearly always misses the kick, falls out the stalls and then is playing catch up. This will probably be of benefit to Alphalia because there's only 4 of them. Looks like there's going to be no pace. So it could end up just suiting to perfect because obviously fall out the stalls, regather yourself and plod on because it comes with a very strong turn of foot. The problem is for me with Alphalia is a Group 2, Group 3 horse, but again obviously this is a Group 2, but I just think doesn't have that potential to be a superstar now. Has been beaten by August Rodin on both last 2 starts, does plenty wrong still in races. Did have a long time off track, so I would be no surprise to see a much better horse here. And if you're asking me who would I rather back out of Alphalia and King's Gambit, it'd be Alphalia just because I think he has warranted that price. But at the same time, the horse that I'm going to chance is the favourite, Passenger. Was originally 11-8, and again, this is why I try to wait for some of these races. The vibes obviously clearly aren't rocket really strong because you're now looking at a price of 9-4, which is never a positive on a horse coming back off a layoff. But at the same time, it's a layoff where they've not said there was anything particularly wrong. It wasn't an injury or whatever, just had illness and bits and pieces. And has been off the track 2 months. But you have to remember, Passenger was currently around 13-8, drifted to 2-1 in the race that August Rodin won. I mean, Alphalia was sent off. What price was that? Alphalia was sent off 6-1 for that. So if Passenger had run, Passenger would probably be a 2-1, 5-2 shot, and Alphalia would have probably been a double figure horse. So the only thing that you're knocking Passenger on is the fact that we haven't seen him. That could well be the issue here. The combination of he does have to give £3 to Alphalia, and he also has to give weight obviously to King's Gambit, so he's going to have to be a good horse. But at the same time, and obviously he's been off for 2 months, but looking through his form, he was very in and out. He looked a superstar last year, and then he was beaten in the Dante when he was given an absolute horror ride, one of the worst rides of the season last year. Completely flopped at Epsom. in the Derby. Just didn't really run any race, but bounced back at Windsor. And yeah, it was only a Group 3 when beating West Wind Blows, but the sectionals were good. And I can't remember, he might have broke the track record. He did something very special on the times. And he was very, very, very good on the fast ground. And again, rinse and repeat at Chester. It was a very simple egg and spoon race that he was racing in. I say egg and spoon, it was a Group 2 race, but he won it very impressively. The sectionals were good, the times were good, and it was on good to firm ground. The good to firm ground that he's going to get here again. I think ground is a lot more important than it's been played out about this horse. The other thing with this is that he beat Isra off level weights. So Isra was rated 114. So he beat Isra off level weights. Isra then went to Ascot and was one of the most impressive handicap winners of the week. He absolutely bolted up, achieving a career high RPR 120, franking the form for Passenger. I just think, okay, yeah, he could run really well today and finish second or third, and this ties him onto the Juddmonte. At the same time, he's only had, 5 starts. If provided, a lot of it's going to come down to health, and obviously I'm putting this up at 9 to 4 at 11:34. By about 3 o'clock, he could be like 4 to 1 on the exchanges and drifting, and you can know that he's not going to run his race. So I'd wait as late as possible, but Michael Stout's given very little away. I've read around and I can't find anything. But the Juddmonte is only 4 weeks away. And if you want to be spot on for that, then you'd like to think he's going to be there or thereabouts for this. And yeah, okay, he's got a £3 penalty, but he could be good enough anyway. And if he was 11 to 8 or 6 to 4, I'd probably just be saying it's a no bet race. But he's going to be around 9 to 4, 5 to 2, and I just think that's just worth. Yeah, you don't have to have a big bet. I just think that's worth a small risk. Or if you want to cover, you can back him to win this and then win the Juddmonte against City of Troy. I'm not saying he will beat City of Troy, but if he bolts up and wins this really well and he's really impressive, I just think so many people were really all over him for Ascot, and his price disappeared overnight. He went from like double figures, like 14 to 1, then he was at 8 to 1, then they confirmed him for the race and he was about 5s, and then suddenly he was like 2 to 1. And that was going to be taking on White Birch, August Rodin, horse like that in Group 1 company. And now he comes here, he has got a penalty, he has had a layoff, but it's a Group 2 against Alflalia and King's Gambit, both of which Alflalia I think is proved is not a Group 1 monster. Could be a Group 1 horse, just not a Group 1 monster. And King's Gambit could be, but has to improve to get there. So I just thought at 9 to 4 it was just worth the risk. So right, let's have a quick summary and a quick run through. So obviously 3:15 Passenger, currently priced around 9 to 4. Ascot, we go back to 13.50. Simmering is about 6 to 4, but again, as I said, temper with enthusiasm. 14.25 if you're pushing me, Friendly Soul at 10 to 3. 3 o'clock is Carry the One and Billy Joe. Do you know what? I am going to have a small bet on Friendly Soul, 10 to 3. 15.40 August Rodin is 13 to 8. And I think I will end up having a cover myself as well. So yeah, okay, it takes it a 13 to 8 to an even money shot, but it means if Rebel Romance, I'm pretty strong on those two being the two to beat. So I think then for anyone who didn't understand that, August Rodin at 13 to 8 and then Rebel's Romance at 4 to 1. If you're having your £8 at 13 to 8, you win 21. £2 on Rebel Romance, you win £10 back. 0 losses, providing one of those two win. And then 16.15, so 4.15 Chancellor. He's 5 to 4 at the moment, which isn't the greatest price, but again, as always with me, it's all about the anti-post. The hope is that he does well here, and then that 33 to 1 will look nice for 2,000 guineas next year. Obviously, he's got a lot and a long way to go, which is why I emphasise on the fact that have your normal bets on these day-to-days, but just have a tiny little thing that keeps you warm over the winter. And then 3.15 Passenger. If you wanted to, I know a lot of them are very short today, so it's tough to say. If you wanted to have a little bit of a double up, you've got a couple of options. You could go, obviously, Simmering, and you go with the 2-year-olds. So Simmering and Chancellor, obviously that's 2.15, 150 and 4.15, and then you could go with the group horses, which is Passenger and then August Rodin. But obviously I'd also have a Passenger and Rebels Romance cover as well. I know obviously I'm more cautious than many, but that's just my nature for when looking at these races. If I'm hot on one, I'll just go with one. And as I've said, that's why I've come here today. I'm not going to stand here and say I've got a nap, I've got a next best, because I don't. I just think a lot of these races you're betting on horses that have had 1 or 2 runs, coming off 2 months or whatever. Whereas at Goodwood, the difference is you know what you're getting. These horses are coming in for Group 1 races. They've had their preps. They've done their things. Like, I'm not going to stand there and tell you Rosalian has any excuses at even money against the horses that he's already beaten. The only thing I will tell you is the fact that Goodwood is a horrible track for getting horses beat. So, but that's next week. And obviously I've already backed Rosalian. So anyway, good luck. Apologies, 35 minutes is way too long, but I will have a summary so that people can just skip to the end if they want to. Good luck, whatever you're betting, and I'll be back soon.